Okay, another edition of Maverick Spotlight here for you. Mav Nation, joining us today, the head coach of the Minnesota State women's basketball program, Emilee Thiesse. Emilee, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about your season. I want to talk about how things went for the Mavericks this year. The Mavericks ended up 18-11 and finished on a high note, winning 5 of their last 6 games. And why don't you take us through the start of the year? You got off to a nice start, had a little hiccup there in the middle part, but really ended well down the stretch, didn't you?
We did. You know, it was in all stretches of what you would compare the whole season. I think we're all really pleased with how the season went. We saw an increase in our overall wins this year. We advanced further in the conference tournament. We saw a lot of those successes pile up this year. We certainly have high expectations for our program, and we want to continue to build off of that. But as you mentioned, we started really hot early in the non-conference and in the conference season. We always know about basketball. It seems like there's this thing that they call the January blahs. Things get to be a little bit of a grind in January, and without making any excuses for our program in any way, but just so happened that we hit the January blahs right as we hit the toughest part of our schedule too, with having to play a majority of our games during that month on the road and against top teams in the league. And as you mentioned, we hit a little bit of a lull in our season at that time, and we had to do a little bit of a reality check, a little bit of a gut check into who we want to be, and really firming up a lot of the pieces to our philosophy, specifically our defensive intensity. We really kind of went back to the grinding stone and fine-tuned a lot of our defense, and that was a big point for us as we really hit February, and as you mentioned, kind of into the conference tournament when we got hot. We were playing really well. We had players playing consistent, and our team seemed to be really clicking at the most important time down the stretch. And that was exciting. That's what you want to be as a basketball team. You want to be playing your best basketball as you get closer and closer to March. Our goals as we continue to move forward is to not have the peak and the valley and then back to the peak again. But again, we consider it a good step in the right direction for where we want to continue within our program.
Well, let's talk about the finish here a little bit, how you ended up there. As I mentioned, you won 5 of your last 6 games, including 2 games in the conference tournament to get to the conference semifinals, where you have to square off against Minnesota Duluth, one of the top teams and certainly the region, if not the country. I think the Bulldogs ended up 26-6 and ended up qualifying for the NCAA tournament. But you did it with a relatively young squad. You had 11 underclassmen on your roster this year, and it seemed, for those of us that had a chance to watch you play, that once you got into your groove, it was probably one of those deals where, I think a lot of people thought that you were getting contributions from a lot of people. You didn't have anybody. I mean, you had a few kids, I think, in double digits, but you didn't have anybody, one real person you had to rely on. It was more of a group effort, and then the rotation relative to how you manage your bench during the course of games. It seems like by the end of the year, those types of things really came together for you.
They did. We're so fortunate, and we're unique in that we have a number of players that can help us in different areas. We had 17 players on our roster this past year, and we really felt like in any given game we could have had any of those combination of those 17 players on the floor at any time, and we would get a spark out of that group. And that's such a great feeling as a coach, that you've got that type of depth. You mentioned we didn't have any like 1 or 2 players that we really relied on to bring us a lot of our production. And, I think that is a really special, unique thing about our program, is that we have so many different weapons, as we call them. I will say that, it seemed as we hit our lull this season, we got caught in the idea of having a lot of balance. And a lot of people would talk about our balance, and you have so much balance. And we talked about our balance. And that got our minds kind of a little bit into the, not a lot of accountability on what everybody should be bringing for us. And it was always kind of it's not my game, somebody else will pick it up idea. And then we really shifted our mindset into the idea of, we have multiple weapons on our team, and not balance, but multiple people who can and will be ready to produce for us. And as we shifted into that mentality, we really started seeing more production, a clearer rotation. You know, early in the season, we were going 5 for 5, you know, every couple of minutes, because again, we had that type of freshness, that type of rotation availability within our program. But, you know, as the season went on, we really started to kind of maybe rely on some players for more of kind of what they brought in terms of maybe setting the defense for us full court baseline to baseline, or, you know, some people with maybe more size inside for rebounding. And once we started getting a little bit more of those clear cut roles and what we needed, then we could maybe get better rotations out of that. And we were still playing 10 to 12 kids, you know, all the way through the season. And that's super unique. And with the way that we play our style, up tempo, up and down pressing, those kind of things, we love to be able to play that many players and have that type of freshness out there. But we also got to get the production within it too.
Now, that being said, one of the things I've noticed in working with you, Coach Thiesse, over the years is that, and as part of the culture of what you're been striving for, you and your staff with your team, is that you're hesitant to actually point out the actual names of players. I'll do that for you here, so you don't have to. How does that sound? Does that sound fair?
That sounds fair, sure.
Okay. Well, I get the what you're trying to build there, and I understand it, but I don't know how anybody could watch how you ran your team and not notice somebody like Joey Batt, the freshman guard from New Ulm, who really over the course of the second half of the season established her role. Christy Fett, you talked about the inside presence. You didn't name Christy Fett, but I know that's who you're talking about. Obviously a kid that is a sophomore, really started to come into her own this year, led us in scoring and rebounding. Of course, she'll, by the time it's all said and done, if things go like she has done over the first 2 years, she'll own our shot blocks record, I think. And it's obvious to, I think, anybody who watches you guys play, that she's going to pose mismatches, matchup issues for anybody that plays against the Mavericks over the course of the next 2 years. We saw it happen this year. She really started, she's so deceptive because she runs the court pretty well, and really you see the confidence building, I think, game by game. You do lose 3 seniors, and we probably should mention the contributions of those 3 kids here as we head off into next year. Then talk a little bit about what we have going on next year relative to where you are with recruiting and what the expectations are once we begin next year for the Mavericks.
Yeah, you're right. You know, our 3 seniors were outstanding for us, you know, with what they've contributed over their careers and what they did for us this past year. You know, we talk a lot about that group, and, you know, we talk a lot about leaving a legacy in our program, and that's so much more about the characteristics that our team has, you know, really embraced and that you set the tone with. And those seniors did an unbelievable job with that. And, you know, they'll be missed, but I think they'll always be proud because they can see, you know, that their hard work really helped to kind of platform our program as we continue to move forward. And, you know, we're super excited for what they've got going on in their future, but we're really appreciative of what they've given to this program, and they'll be an example for us that we'll continue to talk about them, you know, over the next few years for sure. You know, you're right. We graduated some great players. We've got some great upperclassmen that have had a number of years experience underneath them playing, you know, are going to be seniors. A lot of them played a lot as freshmen. So they've got a lot of experience. You know, you mentioned a couple of our underclassmen that got a lot of minutes for us this past year. And so just continuing to bring that experience into this next year is super exciting. You know, right now with the COVID-19 going on, I think a lot of coaches feel like really nervous about the fact that there's no off season to be able to kind of work with your team. And I miss my team. I want to be with them. That's my highlight. I love growing and developing players and building those relationships, and I miss them. But I also have this overwhelming confidence and just a peace, I guess, because I know that we have 12 returners that had great minutes. They are completely bought in. They are excited about, you know, taking the step that we did this last year, but what we want to continue to do next year. They've already started setting goals for what they want to do and who they want to be. They're gym rats. They love the game. They love each other more than anything. So all of that, I know that as much as I would love to be in the gym with them right now, they're working together. They're working on their own. They've got their goals, set in front of them. And that gives a lot of peace where I don't feel like I have to be micromanaging or developing young players right now. They're going to be pushing themselves to do a lot of that. So excited about that group that we've got coming back. And, as you mentioned, we've got right now 4 new players that'll be coming in and joining us this next year. And just they fit right in with that same philosophy of, adding that length that we like to, be able to incorporate into our full court press. That versatility that we like to incorporate into our motion style offense. Tons of great experience. They've got that same positive attitude, that same, passion to make Maverick women's basketball take the next step moving forward. And we're really excited about where we're going to go.
Well, you touched on it briefly, Emilee, about this twilight zone of time we're in right now with the effect of the COVID-19 on everything. Intercollegiate athletics surely been impacted big time by that. And your situation with your program, the end of the year maybe didn't necessarily end the way we wanted to with that 3-point loss to Minnesota Duluth in the conference semifinals with the ball, by the way, and at the end, and a chance to send it to overtime. But how much disruption has that meant for a person like yourself, the head coach of a intercollegiate women's basketball program, and what you would normally be doing this time of year as compared to what you're doing right now?
It's really different. Obviously, as a coach, your mind is almost always dominated with the idea of, what do we got going today? What's our goals? What are we working toward? What do we have in front of us in terms of the players, the team cohesion, all of those kind of things. And then when you don't have that, daily goal or that daily, okay, today it's this workout, it's these players, it's those kind of things, it definitely throws a wrinkle into things. I think it's easy to get in a monotonous, this is what we've always done, so this is how we're going to do it. We lift 3 days a week at this time. We do these individuals. We do the, so this is kind of been a little fun in terms of just, finding new resources that are available, growing as a coach and trying to find new, ball handling drills, new ways to, encourage our players or to get creative and get them kind of connected and just some of those kind of things. I guess if you have to find a bright spot, we're doing our best. Obviously, I would prefer to be in the gym with my players, no question. But, right now we're doing a lot of, team workouts still. We do, a lifting conditioning workout 3 days a week. We kind of check in with our times or our reps or those kind of things. We do a daily ball handling for breakfast where we wake up and we've got some kind of a fun challenge where today it was Throwback Thursday. We had our throwback jerseys on while we were doing some ball handling together on a Zoom call, trying to get fun with it, but also challenging them. We do team meetings twice a week where we're doing some sort of a mental development, goal setting, talking about things that went well for us last year, things that we want to change, and then how we can, incorporate those so we can continue to be better as we move forward. So, this team is staying engaged, and we are doing everything that we can because, that's important to all of us. We don't want to just check out. We don't want to lose our chemistry. It's kind of the highlight of our day and our week when we get to see each other's faces. And like I said, we try to see the side of what we can do and not the side of what we can't do.
Of course, everything you're talking about there is done virtually. It sounds like you're actually in person, but it's not. It's all done electronically. And the adjustment that everyone's made is in your instance, you talk about trying to be creative in not only programming for your kids, but connecting with them and how important that is in order to be able to keep moving things forward a little bit, I think. So that being said, on a personal side now, you're a working mom, with 3 little kids at home. And I'm not even talking about your husband, Brandon, who's also another kid. And I'm sure you ride her on the entire crew there. How's Team Thiesse doing these days?
Thanks so much for asking. Yeah, we're doing great. We really see this as a blessing. It's forced us to slow down. As a basketball coach, it seems like we're just always on the go. A lot of times, even when I'm with my family, I spend time, visiting with recruits or watching film or, a lot of those kinds of things. And my family loves to be a part of Maverick athletics. And so, they even are missing the Mavericks and all of those kind of things. But it's been really nice for us. I'm fortunate that, I have 3 little ones that are 7, 5, and 2. And so we're not stuck in the, trying to teach, actual virtual classroom lessons, like I think probably a lot of parents are trying to actually have to do a lot of teaching. Ours is pretty manageable with a first grader and a preschooler. We do lots of projects, which is definitely not my strength, but lots of painting and crafts and cooking and you name it. We try to, just get as creative as we can. And it's been a lot of fun. It's just given us a lot of time together as a family. And, I know Brandon and I both really appreciate having 3 little ones who, still check out for their daily nap time. So that leaves some daily nap time for us, or usually that's some good quality time for us to get some work done during the day. But we're doing great and, just doing our best to social distance and just pour into our family.
Well, I appreciate you joining us today, Coach Thiesse. I missed seeing you in the hallways with your backpack, walking down the hallway like you're still taking classes, but it looks like you're doing well, and all the best to you and your family. We look forward to talking again soon. Thanks for joining us here on Maverick Spotlight.
You got it. Thanks so much, PA.
Thanks very much. Hello to Brandon.
What's that?
Say my regards to Brandon.